Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to this NBA-SBL Business Law Weekly. That's the season 2, episode 3. And the title of this webinar, as we know, is Intellectual Property in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. With us here are experts in the IP field that have been invited, and the chair of the IP committee will be joining us also in few minutes, having issues with the connections. Just to set some housekeeping rules before we begin. So in the course of the conversation, we could have questions, and please feel free to drop your questions on the chat box or the Q&A, preferably the Q&A, so that we don't miss it. But also you can use the chat box. And then at the end of the session, we're going to have 3 sessions, or rather 3 parts of questions for our 3 panelists. And by the time we are done, we are going to open the floor for Q&A, where we'll take some of the questions that are on the chat. And if need be, we might enable the voice chat, so that you can raise your hand and also contribute or make any burning questions that couldn't or that may not have been answered in the Q&A session. So we will start off in about 1 minute. That's 2 p.m. on the dot, as said. It is our hope that we are going to finish this session in exactly 1 hour. That's at 3 p.m. And if there is any Q&A, we intend to have those Q&A as fast as possible within 10 minutes. So hopefully, if at all we pass the time, we shouldn't exceed 10 after 3 because of the Q&A. So that's the housekeeping rules, and it's 2 p.m. now, and we're going to start. Let me call on the chair of the IP committee of the XBL to welcome us officially. Ngozi, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Let me welcome you once again to the SBL Law Business Weekly Series. This week's edition is hosted by the Intellectual Property Committee. And I want to thank the SBL leadership for sustaining these programs. They have been really educative. And as the SBL IP Committee, we are really excited to bring to you a session that I'm sure that is definitely exciting. It's a topic, a subject that is a trending subject, one that there is a lot to be said about. And I doubt that the 1 hour we have will be enough to even scratch the surface. But this is really like a teaser, whatever conversations we'll have today. And I can tell you that the panelists have been carefully chosen to do justice to the subject as much as time would permit. But I can also promise you that we will take these conversations further, conversations around IP and emerging technology. There's a lot to unravel there. On that note, I don't want to spend it into the already limited time we have. I will just hand over to Ifeanyi, who is going to be moderating the session and introducing the speakers. He would talk us through the subjects, and I'm sure we would all find this to be really valuable. So welcome once again, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ngozi. So today we have 3 panelists, 3 experts in the IP field. The first person that we have, Professor Kasim Musa, and Waziri is here with us. He's a professor of law at the University of Abuja, and has contributed tremendously in the field of IP in Nigeria. We also have with us Davidson Oturu. Davidson Oturu is now the managing partner of Nubia Capital. And for quite some time now, he has contributed immensely in the field of IP in Nigeria. And we have with us Rita Anwara. Rita Anwara is the head of legal for Antis and Inglot, and we are happy to have them here. She has been working with those in the creative sector for quite some time, and she has a lot, I suppose, to tell us in that field. So with that, further ado, let's go into the business of the day. The topic is intellectual property in the age of artificial intelligence. And we have carefully selected this session into three parts. The first, we would delve into the benefits and problems around AI in Nigeria, and Rita Anwara will take that part. And then we will go into the second part of our question, which will be focused around the issues of infringement and liabilities of AI and its users, or even the end users. And Davidson Oturu will help us to dig deep into that session. And then finally, we will come back to what we call the regulatory policies and, bridging the gap between the benefits of AI and the protection of IP rights. And it's our hope that Professor Kasim will help us in answering that part of our questions. So the science of making and utilizing machines and software that can think smartly like humans and do beyond what humans can do, otherwise called AI, has continued to disrupt the industries. And it has improved, it has tested the paradigm of IP as we know it. It has also tested copyright law and trademark law, patents and design, trade secret. Every aspect of IP has been touched by AI. But it has also brought significant improvement to our life. See the advancement in the health tech space, look at the legal tech space, and then even science, talk of data analysis and etc. Yet we are only scratching the surface of this first stage of AI, otherwise known as the artificial narrow intelligence. More than ever, Nigerians are now beginning to embrace AI. We can see a lot of businesses now using AI. Even our banking sector, they are beginning to embrace AI. And this trend raises some questions that could be, that is worth discussing. And that is the whole essence why the IP committee has chosen this topic for today. So Rita, let me begin with you. You have worked closely with creators and inventors, especially from the parlance of copyright. Could you tell us what are the key advancements or breakthroughs introduced by AI in this space, in the creative space, and how have we benefited from them as a country?
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping you can hear me very well because I have a bit of a cold. So I'm hoping my voice is clear enough. Okay, great. Hi, Fanny. Hi, everyone on the panel. It's really, really nice to be here. So without wasting much of our time, I'll just dive right into it. So basically, yes, there's a lot of advancements. I cannot even deny, or we in the media space, and I'm going to be speaking more from my expertise, which is in the media production space. Now, the advancements range from the creation aspect to content enhancement to monitoring tools. It's amazing how a lot of tools, a lot of AI tools have come up. A lot of people don't even know about them. I think the only one a lot of people are jumping on is ChatGPT, which helps with a lot of, writing this, fine-tuning that and all. But there's a lot of tools that content creators, a lot of big companies use that's helped to even monitor even what they call it, products along as you go along, like music and the rest. So I think the first content creation, which makes it very fast. So you have where writers, you say, okay, I want a script that has this log line and this kind of storyline, and I want it to be X number of pages with an emotional feel. You're able to tell the AI what you want it to do, and it basically gives you exactly, okay, maybe not exactly, maybe like 90% of your work done. You have where it's using ChatGPT, which is what everybody really, really knows about, most people know about. You have ChatGPT where you actually ask it to write you a script and it does. What would have taken you a long time to come up with a particular conversation with scenarios in your movie or your screenwriting, you are stuck. You're having a writer's block. You just go there and say, I want X, Y, Z. In the space of even when it comes to our production design, there's a particular tool. I'm trying to remember the name. It basically comes up with decors, home decors. So you want to create your sets. You understand? It's so fast. It has like a lot of contribution in the automated content creation. So you have power tools. They automatically generate creative content including text, music, images, and videos. You have the content enhancement. So maybe you have a particular script that you want the AI tool. Okay, can you help me upscale this image? Can you help me polish this fine tune this writing? I think that there's a lot of advancements. Even the one that I love most is the fact that you can actually track copyright infringement using AI tools online, which a lot of people don't know, but most big corporations use it. You have Content ID Content ID is one YouTube uses. You have Audible Magic. Those ones identify solutions from different platforms, like when you have used music that you shouldn't have used, like it's copyrighted. So that's one Audible Magic. You have Copyright Match. That's one Facebook uses to basically scan tools that are uploaded. You have Peak Rights. That one is for specifically monitoring picture images, right? There's a lot of breakthrough. It has even helped a lot of lawyers in-house, a lot of companies to be able to you're able to manage your IPs, where everything is not all over the place, and you know who exactly uploaded what, right? And then you have yeah, it's really, really amazing. It's weird because it's just now, people think it just started now, but machine learning started a while ago. Your SEOs, those SEOs are the ones that basically monitor. They're the ones that okay, I'm a content creator. This is the kind of content I create. Who are my target audience? There are AI tools that let you know, okay, these are the people you should target your product to, really. So it helps you, even the contractual agreements. These days, I see a lot of lawyers use AI to draft contracts. And sincerely, I'm not going to even bash it, because we lawyers know how long it takes to actually put together a document, and know how English is a tool of your trade, right? So you want the English to be very polished and very brilliant, brilliantly written, and still, quite subtle in its own way and all that. You see, in legal drafting, it's being used, right? And it reduces your time.
Sorry, Rita. Sorry to cut you there. So in view of all this breakthrough, right, you mentioned, and I suppose if I leave you keep digging into these several breakthroughs. But in view of this breakthrough, would you say that the artists and creators in Nigeria, are they afraid of AI, or are they enthusiastic about it?
Is in twofold. That's question. There's a mix of emotions in that. There's the people who are I'm excited about it, right? There's a part where you should be worried about, where people don't know the limits, don't know the legal boundaries of how to use AI. So the part about me being enthusiastic about it is that you see people who, oh my God, I'm excited. It's making my work easier. It's basically, you have creative tools now that help you to just get things done. You have those that it helps your efficiency level. You understand? You're able to do global research. Unlike before, when we have to go to sit in the library with all the law reports in the big books, and then you have to keep flipping and flipping and flipping. You have AI that is helping you to narrow down your search as fast as possible. You're able to do collaborative works. You understand, even using the AI tools. These are the things that I feel like those are the enthusiasts of AI would lean towards that direction. Then you have those that are scared of it, like the fear for the concern for AI. It's those who, for me, if you do not harness what AI is trying, what has been put in front of you, it's a 50-50. You either love it and use it, or you don't and you get left behind. If you're able to harness the power of AI to your own benefit, you will be better for it. So yes, they have people who are enthusiastic and found fears, because I'm sure you've seen this. I'm trying to remember the name. I think I wrote about it sometime. Where they make people, they use people's face. I'm trying to remember the word. I wrote about it on LinkedIn recently about people using face for it's pornography. They use it, they put people's face, they superimpose people's face. Deep fake, thank you. You've seen that's an AI tool. That's something that would have ordinarily been used to act as an assistant for you, like, oh, I can't be here, but you're able to virtually place yourself in a particular place to carry out tasks and nobody would know. Now you have people using it for the wrong reasons. So yes, there's that part. And there's those that think that, oh, AI is after my job. But if you're able to understand how AI is, because at the end of the day, there's a human element to these things. You understand? The sentiments of artists and the creators in Nigeria towards AI, like it's a mix of enthusiasm and concern. And it's usually dependent on your individual experience and your awareness to the capabilities.
That's quite interesting, Rita. So let's bring it home a bit. So as you're a legal tech user now, I know you're big on tech, right? Would you say, so far so good, would you say that AI threatens your job as a lawyer? Or would you say it is actually assisting your job? Could you walk us through examples, like practical examples?
Job makes my job easier. I would be very honest. It makes my job easier. In fact, I mentioned a couple of tools that are being used to track copyrighted work that you don't have the rights to use some work. I just mentioned a couple of tools that big companies use that not everybody knows about, but because these are tools that are necessary for the trade. Do you understand? I'm in a space where content is king. That is the space where I'm in. And for me, being a lawyer, what this does for me, it helps me to keep track. I don't need to, if somebody uploads it somewhere on any server, I know who it is. I know where it is. At least I can track the IP, right? I'm able to see pictures that, oh, this picture shouldn't have been out there. I'm able to send emails easily and say, please take that down. And the good part is because I know where the upload came from, the jurisdiction where the person or whoever it is, I now know. So I now know where to narrow my search to, as opposed to running around in circles. Imagine if I just see a picture of me or a music something that was in-house. Imagine I didn't have those tools. I will be running helter-skelter because how do I know who exactly uploaded it? What IP address? Where is this IP address located? I don't know these things. But with these tools, I have instant report that this particular tool has just been used and was not licensed to be used. Okay, now please, where was it uploaded from? I have it. If I'm able to send an email, I send an email. If you refuse, I know the location, I know the country where you are. I know where my search is going to. I know the authority I should write to be able to get this thing out of your hands, or to at least get the compensation I need for that. So really, I don't think it threatens my job. I think the best is to, if you're able to harness the capabilities of AI, which what that means is basically learn. Don't say, oh, no, I'm a lawyer. I have to carry to all the senior lawyers. Books are good, have books and all. But you also have to keep upgrading your skills in a way that what tools right now would benefit me and make me work more efficiently, not just working hard, but also working smart. So I don't think it threatens your job as a lawyer. I think it's only a challenge. It's only a call for you to upgrade your skills.
Wow. Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you very much. We've heard it from Rita. AI has made our job as a lawyer easy. It is not to be feared. It is to be used as an assistant towards making your job more effective. And I mean, I'll come back to you, Rita, later to let me know which of the tools you're using. Okay, so we will move now to the second part of our questions, and I would be inviting Davidson Oturu to tell us briefly, or rather to even walk us through the various ways by which infringement of IP or calls, by IP I mean intellectual property, of course. So Davidson, can you walk us through the various ways through which infringement of intellectual property occurs using AI?
All right. Thanks, Ifeanyi, and really nice meeting everyone here. Good afternoon. All protocols duly observed. Was really nice hearing Rita's take on a couple of things. So when it comes to AI, right, it gets quite interesting because it's rapidly evolving. I would say maybe over the last 10 years or so, it's probably something that has been on the lips of everybody. Everybody's like AI, AI, AI. But like we all know, following the pandemic and the emergence of ChatGPT, everybody has almost turned into an AI expert of some sort. Like everybody has something to say on AI. Even in the investment world, all you probably need to just do now is slap AI on what you are doing, and everybody is buzzing around. I mean, it's like a running joke now that you just say AI and everybody is just, swarming around what you're doing. But the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, there was something that I put out a few days ago, right? That a company like NVIDIA that, does semiconductors and a couple of things using AI, they've seen their stock rise. I had a friend of mine who bought into NVIDIA. He told me about it, that shouldn't I look at buying into this stock? I was like, no, that I'm not really doing public equity right now, but he bought. So regardless of how much he bought it, just do a 200% take on that. And if he decides to exit now, clearly what he invested is much more. So AI is big. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I'm sure that we know that AI is more than just ChatGPT. I mean, that's just that's LLM, which is, like just one side of it. And because it's generative AI, a lot of folks, again, are excited about it because it can help you generate content. But when it comes to IP, for those who understand, practically everything we do and create is dominated by IP, right? So this Zoom call that we're having now, IP rights are all over the place, right? Just by virtue of what we are doing, you're creating IP. You're also creating data as well. So I'll give you an example. So like with AI, you have the machine learning side of it, right? So the virtual assistants that we use, like Alexa, Apple, Siri, Google Assistant, those are all forms of AI. Now, when it even comes to self-driving cars, like what Tesla is doing with some of the products it's looking to introduce, and even Google has a self-driving arm as well. That is all AI. You go to the health space, there's AI. You go to facial recognition, even voice recognition, that is AI. AI has deep learning as well. There's the robotic side, medical diagnostics, is AI. When you look at the span of what covers or what falls under AI, then it makes you to appreciate the fact that there is a tendency to infringe on IP, right? Or there's a tendency for you to do something that could affect somebody's AI. And I think along some of the questions that may come, we would examine, maybe like in deeper scope now, how what you create with AI, who owns it, and by virtue of that ownership, who can infringe on that AI. But maybe I'll just give the few examples. One of them, of course, very strongly that anybody can think of is plagiarism, right? That's one way, that infringement of IP can occur, because if AI creates content that you put in a text, so you use AI tools, just, generative AI, ChatGPT, put it in there. Now, what ChatGPT does is another generative AI tools, they pull information from different data sources, and then they put it into that content. So the tendency that they've actually pulled from an article by somebody, right, and mixed it with maybe like 3 different articles and giving you an answer that looks very correct and sweet, the chances that you've probably plagiarized 5 different authors is very strong in what you've created and put out, and you're feeling so good with yourself. So you find yourself in danger of copyright infringement, plagiarism from different authors and creators. And this can apply across so many practice areas or sectors. So that's definitely one way that IP infringement can come into play. And you would also see that in music and arts too. Again, you tell it, okay, create song, create something, you'll be shocked at how original some of that looks, but it came from already existing sources. Now, when you talk about trademark infringement as well, there are the generative AI tools that also create images, right, or brands. Again, you may say, okay, create something that looks unique for me, and then you go online, you probably don't see anything like that. Now, generative AI and some of these other AI tools are fantastic and amazing tools, right? But they should be aids to the creativity, not the creativity itself, because that's where you will then end up having challenges. So you can not only have trademark, infringement where you create brands or designs or logos that closely resemble that of already existing creators. Now, you can also come to the area of data, right, which you could say falls under copyright to a degree, but then also extends to even data, who owns data, so data ownership as well, because AI is basically scraping information online, like Netflix and some of these other guys, YouTube. Even when you try to board a flight or you try to do a couple of other things, there's data all around that can be scraped. Now, in the process of scraping some of these data and putting them together, if you are depending on that data that is generated, you could also find yourself in the realm of copyright infringement. So you want to create a website, or one of your client wants to create a website, and they engage you to help them with that, or you are advising them along the way. You may not even be involved in the process, but there's also an opportunity for you to advise your clients, maybe creating websites or creating other platforms that utilize data, right? And they're using AI for some of that data scraping, and in whatever they are doing, they should make sure that it strongly complies with existing IP laws, data privacy, and data protection laws. I don't know how many minutes more I have on this, but when you come to issues around trade secrets, AI can also be used to a degree to access trade secrets, right? Which can then harm companies. Now, how can this work? There are times when like for those of us who know how trade secrets work, they are IP that the minute they become disclosed to the public, they lose value. If somebody has a trade secret that has been placed in the care of a third party, and then somebody uses AI, and is able to gain access to that information and disseminate it to the public, you would have definitely found yourself in a place where an action can be brought against you for misappropriation of AI, of trade secrets. Information that we receive sometimes, right, can actually end up closely resembling something that has already been prepared or created. So if you have a trade secret or your client has a trade secret which they believe is theirs, then it has to be placed in such a way that access to it by third parties or AI would be limited. And maybe I'll just stop there for the next question.
Thank you very much, Davidson. That was wonderful. Okay. So you've raised some further issues that would really require me asking you a bit further. But before I come to that, let me ask you this. The issue of ownership in works purportedly created independently now by AI. We know it has been a burning issue globally. And assessing all Nigerian, looking home to all our laws on IP in Nigeria and the attitudes of our courts, even though we know that there has not been any really specific decision on AI in Nigeria. But looking at the attitudes of our courts and looking at the laws we have so far on IP, what would you say is the Nigerian position in terms of generated works by AI?
Well,
in terms of ownership now.
So that's a good question, right? I wouldn't say the Nigerian courts have had the opportunity, at least not to my knowledge now, had the opportunity to deliberate on ownership of AI, right? But I think even based on existing treaties and the position globally, there may be to a degree, yeah, I would say our existing laws too, we can kind of have a picture of what would apply, for AI-generated works and who owns it. I always like to give certain terminologies. Somebody asked me a similar question a few weeks back, but the person was making a really strong case for why AI should own IP rights. And I broke down a couple of things, right? But one of the examples that I gave was, and I was just trying to create some parallels. It may not be exactly the same, but it kind of helps for remembering, right? Was if you're familiar with the monkey selfie case, that happened for a couple of years from like 2011 or so, but I think it was in 2014 that the person who got the monkey to create the selfie now had to have a couple of court cases because a few folks were trying to use the picture. So what had happened was he went to the jungle. I can't remember which part of the world it was again, but all these rainforests where there are a lot of chimpanzees and monkeys and gorillas. And then he set up his camera in such a way that a monkey was able to take a selfie. And of course, he put it out there that this monkey took a selfie. And so Wikimedia, which is part of the Wikipedia family, now started using that monkey-generated selfie. A couple of people started to use the monkey-generated selfie on the premise that it was made by a monkey. And so because it was made by a monkey, the guy couldn't claim ownership of the picture at the end of the day. But of course, the matter went to court to determine the ownership rights. One of the things that was concluded was that monkeys are non-humans. And if you look at copyright laws everywhere, in order for you to have authorship or ownership of generated works, you have to be a human. So the monkey, number one, could not own the copyright to the selfie. And if anybody could own the copyright to the selfie, it would be the man who had the camera that was used. But if that was not a matter that could be concluded, because the court went back and forth on that, was that nobody would actually own the right to the selfie. But eventually the court had to say that the man held the right to the selfie because it was his camera, it was generated and all of that. I mean, it caused a lot of mixed reviews, right? You could see the same thing too happening with AI generated works. And there was even one that I think I saw the decision maybe just a few days back, that was delivered in the US, where the whole issue around IP generated work still emerged again because someone created something that was, I mean, he didn't even deny that it was generated by AI, right? He put it out there and said it was generated by AI, and he wanted to copyright, that. Of course, we know that copyright, once you create it, you immediately have, especially when it's in a fixed medium, there's protection for it. But he wanted to get, like a copyright certificate and have that acknowledgement that it was protected by copyright. But the US Copyright Office actually said that because it was generated by AI and not by human, he could not receive copyright protection for it. Eventually, they had to go to court again, and the court held that because he was the one who created it using AI tools, then he is the owner of the copyright, regardless of whether it was generated by AI. So having said that, we can then look at Nigerian laws, because that kind of gives us a perspective, right, around a couple of things. Now, when it comes to the Copyright Act, it's very clear on who can own copyright, right? I mean, whether it's literary works, which include computer programs, which is what AI basically generates, right? Makes it very clear that authorship and ownership vests in the author or creator of the work. An argument may be made that, hey, but it was AI, you use generative AI. Yeah, but it was your hand that did it. It was your machine that was used, which is why the issue of plagiarism really would inure with the author, the person who put it there in the first place. You're not going to sue AI, the open AI, the owner of ChatGPT. It's going to be you who decided to take ownership of it and say, this is what I created. So clearly the Copyright Act makes it very clear who owns copyright. I also use the issue of liability, for example, as another way of looking at it. Can AI be liable, or is it humans that are liable? So at the end of the day, when you look at it that way, it makes it very clear who owns or where things stand. So I think it's going to be quite easy, or maybe not so difficult when you go to court, right, in order to determine where ownership of AI stands, until there is a level of, until somebody is able to create maybe AI that has human sides to it. It's going to be difficult to be able to prove quite a number of things. When you look at international treaties as well, it makes it very clear, right, who IP belongs to. Globally, it makes it very clear who IP belongs to. So I would say that the answer to that, and it's based on the way I look at it, is pretty clear-cut on who ownership of the AI-generated work belongs to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Davidson. Just a little bit of a pushback on that, so that
Sure.
we can give value to our listeners. So I read this article, this interesting article, and the person was making a case of what would likely be the Nigerian situation, and preferring arguments for both and against. And the person was coming from the angle of a juristic person, right? And knowing that law, just like your corporate law, the entity, and you register the company, the person is distinct from the corporate personality, and then brings out the personality argument. And then the person said, even looking at the copyright requirements, for instance, especially when it has to do with those particular kind of work, you notice that the originality requirement may not be there, right, in terms of the generated work by the AI, especially when the work was independently created of the author. So, and the person was making a case saying, based on the fact that someone can actually register the AI as an entity, and let's say, for instance, Firefly, right? And then we should be able to look away from who created that particular machine and look at it as an entity, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
What do you
no,
think
so
about
yeah,
that?
it's for want of a better description, it's a sexy argument, right? But you still need to come back to who can, Now, if the law makes it very clear that it has to be a natural person, then the question of whether creating a vehicle that you will now decide to slap a jurisdiction, of which we already know that AI cannot be, but if you just want to do that for the sake of making an argument, it still falls short of the requirements because you have the legal requirements, right? So that's why I said until we get to that point where laws are changed to enable that, you have to look at the letter of the law. What would happen now if everybody argues and says, no, this person couldn't have owned it because it was done independently? Then they will just go into the public domain. That means it's devoid of human authorship and creativity. So it goes into the public domain and it belongs to nobody. So it belongs to nobody and belongs to everybody. Anybody can use it, which was an argument that also went into that monkey selfie thing too. When folks started to use it, they were saying, okay, fine, since you're saying that the monkey is a non-human, then that means anybody can use it. It's in the public domain. That's where some AI-generated works are actually beginning to go now, especially when those kind of arguments are beginning to arise, that no, this person cannot claim that he's the author. Then it's public domain. Anybody can use it.
Interesting.
But
So one
AI
last
cannot
question.
own it. Yeah, sure.
So one last question, David, before we move to Prof, because so there's this issue around ChatGPT being just, like you said, it just one part or a side of AI discussion. So the terms of use in ChatGPT, especially I think it's open AI, it reveals that the output from ChatGPT belong to the user, right? But the input are licensed to the creators of ChatGPT for machine learning and for use. Would you say that's a valid arrangement? I mean, for businesses who are trying to create something similar like ChatGPT or trying to use that same terms of use, would you say that arrangement is allowable or permissible under Nigerian law? Is there anything that bars it?
So that's an interesting question. Well, you need to look at a couple of things, right? And I don't think there's one answer really, or there's one way of arriving at the conclusion. First thing that I would look at really is around data protection. Even though, sorry, there's a part of the question that I'm still. So you said that the inputs are licensed to the creators, or
yeah.
What
So
did you?
So if you want to use ChatGPT now, and then you're going to put some input because you want some output. So the inputs you make are then licensed to ChatGPT, and of course its users, right?
Okay.
So it takes it for its own learning and use.
Yeah.
But then from your question, it then gives you an output. Now, some of the terms of use says that the output the ChatGPT gives you, because it is triggered by your own input, so that output belongs to you. You own that work. Let's say the literary work, right?
Yeah.
But the input then belong to the owners of the ChatGPT. And the question is, the question was, if that kind of arrangement, that kind of business arrangement, is it permissible under our copyright law? Is there anything that would bar it?
Okay. Well, so I would say that it is permissible, right? Because and again, it tallies with what I was thinking, just that there were so many sides to it because it's not just one arrangement. Now, I'm also looking at the contractual side, where you have consent, and it's made it very clear and explicit, right, that, you're going into this contract and this is what, applies. So these are the terms and conditions. So it's almost like there's a waiver, there's an acceptance. Of course, you still need to look at moral and economic rights and whether even at that you can license or sell or agree to assign all of that. But to a degree, the argument as to whether you can approbate and reprobate really needs to be, considered. And I would say that yes, it's legal, because the whole contract has been created by the consent. Also, when you look at which is the first point that I was trying to respond to, the data privacy laws. In order for you to use data that is provided, again, you have consent coming into play for data processing and all of that. Of course, there's also contract as one of the legal basis for the use of data. Again, so even under data privacy, that is covered. Now, even under the broader IP rights, again, like I had mentioned, if the terms make it very clear, that this is a transfer or a license, you already know that the creator of the works owns the IP, right? And so can assign or license it based on agreed terms. So that is something that also needs to be considered. The final point that I'll probably say on that is the issue around public policy, because if what you're trying to do or the purpose or the underlying theme around all of that sharing of data is contrary to public policy, then of course, we definitely know that all of those things collapse in the face of what would be an infringement of public policy or infringement upon fundamental rights. So that's the way
Thank you
that I
very
would
much.
approach it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That has been very, very insightful. And talking about policy and public policy, that would lead me straight to Prof, which we end our session before we go to the Q&A. We see your Q&A. Please keep bringing them in. We'll address them immediately after Prof's section. Prof, is Prof still with us? Oh, great. Yes. So, Prof, this question would be directed to you. We know that governments of the world are now looking at regulating AI, and some scholars and even business owners have argued that regulation of AI will stifle invention and innovation. Considering the Nigerian, environment, what would you say? Would you say that AI should be regulated in Nigeria, or should we just leave it as it is? Sorry, Prof, you are muted. I think Prof might be having some issues with his connection there. If that is the case, then, okay, he's here. Sorry, Prof, we cannot hear you. You might need to unmute the microphone. The microphone button is on red. So you might need to unmute. Sorry, Rex, are you able to unmute Prof? I think we're still having the net.
Prof, I am sending you a request to unmute. Kindly just click on it. Thank you.
So while we are doing that, maybe we can take one or two of the Q&A. And then as soon as Prof is able to solve that technical glitch, then we can come back to Prof. I'm really excited about the questions we have for Prof. It's really about, it's currently what the US and the EU countries, even the UK, are thinking about. It's a big argument whether AI should be regulated or not, and the key considerations for that. So while we come back to Prof, let's take some of the Q&A here. The first one is from Titilayo Aina Scott. Says, hello everyone, my name is Titilayo. My question is to Mrs. Rita. Could you help drop the name of some of the tools you mentioned? Okay, Rita, if you can do us the favor of dropping them on the chat box, that would be nice. I think another person requested for it as well. Can we get the details of tools used to track down infringing image and other forms of IP? Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to drop a few. I'll try to drop at least. It's one that I know that is very, very good, which is really general. I'm shocked that a lot of people don't know about it, which is the Vision AI is by Google. So I'll
yes, that's the one Google used.
Yes, the Vision AI I'll use. I sincerely I've noticed a lot of people don't even know about a lot of this other tools. Everybody just
the one you said Facebook used. The one you said Facebook uses. What's that one? I don't think I know of that. There's one.
It's Copyright Match. It's Copyright Match tool. They also use it on YouTube as well. It's you use it to report for your content. If you put up your content and it doesn't, you think somebody has infringed, so it basically scans everywhere. Then if they see it, you're able to choose an action.
Oh, okay. I think Prof is ready now.
Great. All right.
Prof, are you able to unmute now? We cannot hear you from here.
If Prof is having an issue with his device, maybe he can change from a phone to a laptop or
change the device. Yes. If you could share the link with a co-worker and then enter from the co-worker's laptop, that might be helpful. I think it's a technical glitch. It's still unable to unmute. Okay, Rita, please type the name for us, the tools on the chat box. We will appreciate that. And then we'll move on to the next question here. I note that AI has proved to provide wrong authorities, which has occasioned sanctions against some legal practitioners. This appears to be a machine learning problem of being unable to differentiate real legal authorities from information merely pieced together. Is it therefore proper to rely on AI for legal drafts in recent times? Rita, I think that question is touching to your side of the presentation. Do you want to?
I was busy typing, trying to type the response. I wasn't listening to you. Please.
Oh, okay. I'll just read that again. So it's by an anonymous attendee. The person said, I note that AI has proved to provide wrong authorities, and which has occasioned some sanctions against legal practitioners that use them. So the question now is it therefore proper to rely on AI for legal drafts in recent times?
Like I said before, it is understanding how to use AI and not generally relying totally on AI. It is machine. It is still learning, right? So the problem that a lot of people have is they delegate the entire work to AI and think, okay, you know what? The computer has done it, so you know I don't have to do anything anymore. There's a human element to it. So you go, you check it yourself. Just because the AI has given you citations doesn't mean you do not check. It only has, what it has done for you, you did a search. It has given you a number of citations. It is your job as the lawyer. You are the trained lawyer to actually go and check, does this particular citation work for my case? I even generally I've seen where lawyers even quote judgments where the issues are not exactly in line with what the matter they are dealing with at the time. It's just the judgment is general and you feel okay, it covers this. But then when you go to the meat of the issue, it's not the same. And then you see lawyers just quote it, make reference to when it's time to like make your submissions and the rest, they look funny in front of the judge because you ordinarily did not do your research well, right? So if you ask the AI to generate citations for you and it generates several of them, it is your job as a lawyer to actually go and make sure that these citations are actually correct, not just releasing all your job to it. That's, in my opinion, just sheer laziness, really.
Yeah, there was something that
Thank
happened
you very
in
much.
there was something that happened in the US a few months back. I don't know if we saw it. That was probably like 2 or 3 months ago. There was this US lawyer of over 20 years post call that actually got sanctioned by the bar. I think he was fined over $5,000. He used ChatGPT to make his presentation, and he used it. It created up to 10 cases that did not exist, and he filed that before a judge. So when the judge questioned him, I was even shocked when I read his responses because he said when ChatGPT generated it, he asked ChatGPT that, are you sure that these cases exist? And ChatGPT said yes.
Yes.
That man's license should be taken away because I'm like, how could you have been practicing law for that long? And then you abscond your responsibility as counsel to ChatGPT. You just say, ChatGPT, work for me. So like what Rita said, it is not supposed to replace you. It's not supposed to replace your brain because it's pulling out data from what exists online and it is generating, like ChatGPT can generate nonsense with flowery language that you just be like, wow, this exists. So
Wow.
sometimes when I'm using ChatGPT and I've given it information and it generates something, and I now question it, you say, oh, sorry, that is what I was saying. What I was saying was very clear, but why did you get it wrong? So I cannot rely on ChatGPT for anything, for any of my drafts, because if anybody reads it, they will think that I've gone bonkers, literally. So you need to be very careful. It may look beautifully written, but if you don't understand the principles and you put it out there and somebody understands it, they will identify that you're a fraud straight, and that could actually affect your credibility. So you have to be careful in using these tools.
If I hope this, I hope I'll answer,
If I know
the question.
You have answered it perfectly. And if I know US lawyers, are you sure the person is not trying to make a case to go after OpenAI? Because that would be a perfect case of damages.
True.
They would say because the computer knows everything.
Yeah. So there's one interesting question on the chat box. And it says, what can be said about fair use? And this is to both you, Davidson,
Hello?
and Rita.
Hello?
Oh, wonderful. Yes,
Hello?
Prof, we can hear you. Aha.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I'm so sorry. I think I had a glitch.
Yes.
Glitch issues not only on election now, even on Zoom now there are glitches.
Yes, this is the problem of AI.
Yeah. Yes.
So Prof, because of time, I'm going to mobile all your questions into one, right?
It's okay.
And yes, and then we hope you can do justice to it within the time remaining.
Amen.
The the question is, maybe I need ChatGPT to bring them all into one now. Let me try and let me try and save our brain. Okay.
Yeah.
So recently, what has happened or what is happening now is that governments of the world, right, they are now looking at the big question of whether or not AI should be regulated. And someone, I think it was the IBM CEO, Krishna, he was reported to have said, yes, he was reported to have said when he was asked to comment on this, whether AI should be regulated or not, he said, and I will quote, regulate AI risk, not AI algorithms. Regulate AI risk, not AI algorithms. We should regulate end users, the when, the where, and how AI products are used. This helps us promote innovation and accountability, but we shouldn't regulate the algorithm because it will stifle innovation and invention. So, so my question to you therefore is, what do you think as a country, because it's almost as if Nigeria will always crawl when others have done it, that's when we come. But I mean, we can begin now to think about it because people are now using AI in Nigeria. And the statistics are showing that the users of ChatGPT, a lot is coming from Nigerians. So would you say we should regulate AI? And if we should, what should be the strategy, the balance between the use of AI and, making sure we don't stifle invention and innovation?
Thank you very much. And thank you, listeners. I'm sorry coming in late. Well, I've read Krishna's position and very deeply. I want to say, because he was positing that we should regulate AI algorithms and not AI itself. And I don't really agree, because going further, if you look at the position of Geoffrey Hinton, Tesla, including Elon Musk, they are of the opinion, which I totally agree, that it's the all gamut of AI must be regulated for very serious reasons. And there are a lot of risks coming with AI. And there are, like the first presenter, I was so impressed with her. She has seen everything positive, very positive things on AI. Yes, there are positive things on AI. There are positive issues making a lot of things, the world easier, but there are a lot of risks involved that if we are not fast enough, it may engulf us. Because if we look at AI within the context of ChatGPT and copyright and what have you, we may not really understand the real issues. Going further, if you look at AI through production, through warfare, through other means, and then even through human personality, definitely we must come to regulate AI as a matter of necessity in order not to jeopardize human development and human nature, so to say. Yes. So therefore, of the view that there are many aspects of AI that we have to look at. And one of the we must accept the reality of AI, recognize it as it is in order to advance an acceptable legislation to cover it under our IP framework. Because one of the challenges is that AI is coming to challenge settled legal framework for intellectual property. And we cannot be static, because, and that's the essence of IP. IP, we cannot stop thinking, and we cannot stop how people will think. But when that thinking comes, we must wake up to the challenge and then see how we are going to regulate it into a human existence. And before I go further, I want to let people know that I want to give an example, like nuclear weapons production. The world is in control of proliferation of nuclear weapons. As such, not all countries are allowed to produce nuclear weapons. Why? It's because to keep humanity. AI can grow to that level of risks. So we must regulate AI. The another area of regulating AI is to look at the concept of licensing. Because it's involving big data and other issues, we must be able to look at, to bring a framework of licensing to make it intendedly, to capture the dynamics of AI. We must make it intendedly and to capture the dynamics of AI. Then the issue of ownership of AI. The last speaker was bringing about the issue of monkey and the photograph and whatever. We must look at AI and AI generated works or inventions so that we can regulate to settle the matter. Because most of the issues we're having right now is about ownership. And where is ownership? Only our laws, both patents, copyright, trademarks, only recognize man. It doesn't recognize any other thing, either animals or machines. And this is a fallacy that we must come to reality. That look, human thinking has progressed and it can produce a machine, and machine becomes a human behavior and human inventor. So we must be brave enough to look at that area too. Then we must look at the challenge of management of big data. We must give it the moment if you enter ChatGPT, even if you did not finish what you want to do, they've already gotten your data. And this management of data goes to the core of managing AI. Then the issue of ethics. There are ethical issues. And this is where regulation becomes very necessary. And we must bring out the issue of ethics, and both including those who are even not employed by any organization. These ethical issues must be there as a law. There are even areas that are saying we should ban some AIs. Maybe because it has not grown to a level that maybe just recently we've seen where a company in US, in Oregon, is producing robots. We must be able to make laws that you cannot produce all kinds of robots. There must be robots that should be accepted in a civilized society. As such, even there could be banning as part of the laws, not only regulating what AI should come. And I do not think we should take lightly about the incursion, the development of AI. AI has a lot of positives, no doubt. But again, man must wake up to be cautious. I think that's a summary of what I want to give. Maybe other questions, I will make some explanations. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much, Prof. That was a very intellectual summary you've given. I know that was a lot, and you had to summarize it because we had to end at 3:10 on the dot. So we have 5 minutes left. I'm struggling between taking one of the questions. There are so many intelligent questions on the chat box, and sadly, we can't take them all. I'm struggling between taking one of them or we going into the closing remark. But let me just throw one quickly and see if we can answer that within 2 minutes. So this is to every one of the panelists. What is the position of fair use in terms of AI? You know, AI collects copyright works and everything really online, and then uses it for its training. What is the position of fair use as a defense? What is the position of fair use as a defense for AI and its, of course, and its owners or users? David Singh, Rita, what do you think? Do you think fair use would apply, especially looking at the Nigerian context, maybe fair dealing now or however the new Copyright Act has it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So, yes, I mean, when it comes to copyright protection, now fair use is definitely an exception because it allows you to use copyright without permission, you know, and all. But when you're using AI-generated content, you still need to obey the principles, that goes along with fair use. Because if you don't, then you could fall out. I mean, it's one thing to claim fair use, right? It's another thing to actually, kind of comply with those principles. So, for example, the purpose and character of the use, if it's for parody, commentary, criticism, you can definitely make a case for fair use. But if you take that content that is, in ChatGPT or some other generative AI platforms, and you now put it in a book or in some material, and then you're trying to sell it as what you created, by yourself, as opposed to whether it's a commentary on something, then definitely, it will definitely fall out of that. Now, market value issues, again, needs to be taken into consideration. If you've also tried to transform, part of the original work to now make it look, just those principles that would typically apply to fair use, you need to make sure that what you create there, falls within those principles. Now, related to this is a question that I saw where somebody said generated AI work, that the terms of use is basically giving you a right that
So
cannot
sorry,
give us.
Davidson. So sorry. So sorry, because I'm a stickler for time. Yes, and because we mentioned that we're going to end at 10:10 on the dot. Please let's call it a close here. Please do well to send in all your questions, and I believe Rex and the secretary and ourselves, we are going to collate them and then send the answers to you. And if you're unable to do that, just chat me up on LinkedIn or so, and then I'll get to the panelists and do the necessary connections. So I'm so sorry, we have to call it a day here, and I'll just call on the chairperson of the IP committee, SBL, to give the closing remarks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, my beautiful panelists.
Thank you so, so much. That was 1 hour of exciting conversation. If you're like me, you know that listening to the speakers, I am just, it's just triggered even more interest into areas of AI that, I haven't even paid as much attention to. There's a lot to unravel. I want to thank the audience. I want to thank everyone. This was well attended. We had definitely over 150 participants. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you. I'm sure you enjoyed the session. I also want to particularly recognize Dr. Adefulu, the chairperson of the SBL, who has been on the call from the beginning. Actually, I didn't realize he was on the call. He's been on the call and he's listened through. Thank you so much for your leadership. And particularly, I want to thank you again for these sessions that we've had back to back every week. The SBL Law Business Weekly sessions have been very, very good. Thank you for giving us this opportunity as lawyers to share thoughts every week on subjects that are of interest to us. I would also want to thank the speakers. All the speakers have spoken brilliantly. You can tell that they understand the subject and they know their onion. They understand the areas where they are the issues around artificial intelligence, the growing issues. Thank you so much, David Sinoturu. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Professor Waziri. And of course, thank you, Ifeanyi, for moderating this session. Thank you so much. That was, you did a brilliant job to put all these thoughts together, to coordinate all these thoughts within 1 hour. I think we have to continue this conversation, really. So just be on the lookout for follow-on conversations on intellectual property and emerging technologies. I think these are things that really are, they're germane issues to be discussed now. From a policy standpoint, from a practice standpoint, these are definitely very, very important issues to touch on. I would also want to thank the SBL Secretariat for all the supports they've given behind the scene. Thank you so much for making the technology available and helping us to be able to have this session without too many issues. And on that note, I want to, wish everyone a very good afternoon and a productive rest of the day. And we'll see you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know